Hey everyone, welcome back to Be Nice Yoga online studio. You're here with me, Krista, and my little doggy Emma. I'm sure she's going to be in and out of the video as usual. So today we're going to move through a yin yoga practice with the intention around honoring surrender. So today, I'm not sure if you guys know, but I made an announcement on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram about taking this platform fully online. So letting go of the space that I've been teaching out of for the past year and really allowing for some space in my life to take this practice fully online. With that being said, it has taken a lot of surrender, a lot of release, as well as just riding the waves of emotion. So today we're going to work through honoring that process of surrender through our yin yoga practice. If you're new to yin yoga, this practice is all about working with longer holds. So we move into a posture using supportive props, and we hold the poses from anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Now when we move through that length of a pose, it drops us deeper from our superficial muscle down to the tissues and fibers a little bit deeper in the body. So it's a great practice when we're trying to open up through our hips, our low back, our hamstrings. This is a beautifully transformative practice if you're able to do it frequently. So it's a great balance or yin to your yang flow practices. So let's just begin in a comfortable seated position. I'm going to try and cross my legs here. Watch out, Ems. And then when we come into our seat, just resting the hands on the knees, taking your shoulders and rolling them down the back. We're going to sit up tall and soften the eyes, allowing yourself some time just to ground down into your mat. Giving yourself permission here to relax through the face, the jaw, the shoulders. Letting go of whatever's come before your practice in your day. And really stepping into this moment. Before we begin our physical yin yoga practice, I'd like you to bring your hands to prayer and connect your thumbs to your heart space. Just spending some time working in the heart space at cultivating your own intention for practice today. So with the overriding intention of honoring surrender, take some time to think about what you're willing to let go of, or flow with, or surrender to. Pulling this intention from your heart space, from a place of love and non-judgment. And then keeping this intention in your heart space as an anchor for your practice. When we move through our yin yoga and we hold poses from 3 to 5 minutes, you may notice your mind wandering off. But when we have an intention in our heart space, we can use it as a way to come back to the present moment instead of projecting into the future or reflecting on the past. Let's slowly bring our hands back to our knees and just gently tuck the chin to the chest. Spend a few breaths here, opening up through the back of the neck. And then blinking your eyes open, we're going to lift up our gaze once again. So our first pose that we're going to move into is actually on our backs. Now before we make our way to our back, I'd like you to grab your props if you have them. So for the poses on our back, I'd like you to have some sort of pillow or bolster on the right side, as well as a blanket at the back of your mat. You can move all of your other props off to the side, and then just take your time to very slowly roll down onto the back. So once we arrive here, making sure the blanket is resting or pillows resting under the head, we're going to give our knees a big hug into the chest and just invite a little bit of movement side to side, releasing out to the low back. Take some time to feel into the energy shift as we arrive on the back. So what I'd like you to do first is just notice the bolster or pillow out beside the right hip. We're going to straighten that right leg out and start to find our left knee hugging into our chest. So here you can create a little bit of movement by making circles with the knee, rolling out the ankles. And then as you're ready, we're going to find ourselves in a supported spinal twist. Bolster stays where it is, and we pull the left knee across. Now what I like to do in our twist is actually come right up onto that right hip, and then stretch your arms out beside you. We're going to open up through our chest and shoulders as well as through the spine, and then coming into the outside of our left hip here. So what I'd like you to do is just feel into the twist. The right leg is long, softening the eyes and breathing into the space that we're creating through the spine. Now I like to close my eyes and just really feel into the sensation through the body. So feel into that release through your hip, that expansion through the chest and shoulders. If you have animals at home, they may really like when you're on their level. So just inviting them to join your practice if it's not too distracting. We're about halfway through our hold on this side. So again, just making sure you feel supported under your left knee. If you'd like a little bit more, you can grab onto that knee and weigh the knee down with the hand. Nice, let's take a few more breaths here in our twist. And then to release out of our twist, I'd like you to pull your left knee slowly back to center as you find yourself resting on your back. You can then hug both knees into the chest, giving yourself a big squeeze. There we go. Releasing out your twist with some movement, just side to side. Nice work. So what we're going to do between sides is just gently plant the feet. Knees are bent. Readjusting so that we're going to bring our bolster or pillow, whatever you have at home, off to the left side. Now from here, let's straighten out the left leg as we pull the right knee into the chest. We're going to feel into some movement and release through that right hip, right ankle. And then as you're ready, slowly bringing the right knee all the way across to plant onto the bolster, finding yourself lifting up onto the left hip here. Okay, and then opening up your chest and your shoulders to reach out. Feeling into that deep twist through the spine, the release through the outside of the right hip, as well as expansion through the chest and shoulders. We've got about a 3-minute hold here. Softening your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Noticing as we've switched onto our right side how different your both sides are. So for me, my right side is always a little bit tighter. It's my dominant side. You may notice that in your body as well. We always reflect and observe the body through the lens of love and compassion. Okay, giving yourself permission to be exactly as you are today, without judgment, without criticism. Got a few more breaths here on this side. And then again, as you're ready, we're very slowly going to pull the right knee back to center, plant the foot, find yourself flat on the back, and then give the knees a hug into the chest. Nice little rock from side to side to release out through the back. Beautiful. So what we're going to do from here is just inhale to reach up overhead and then reach the legs straight as well. Finding a big full body stretch. Inhale, engage. Exhale, soften. We're going to take ourselves into what's called banana pose. So walking the feet to the bottom right corner of your mat. And then the arms to the top right corner, all while keeping your body very nice and flat onto your mat. We're going to open up our left side body. This is so nice through the obliques as well as the IT band. Option with the feet is to cross your right ankle over your left. So again, we're staying grounded down. Closing the eyes here. This is a 2-minute hold only. Got a little less than a minute. Continuing to open up through the left side body. Really actively trying to feel into that expansion through your left side. And And then as you feel ready, we're going to walk our hands and feet slowly back to center. Just take your time. Big stretch here. And then taking the feet to the bottom left corner. Hands to the top left corner. Again, we're staying flat on our mat, just working into a side bend. Here, an option to take the right foot across the left ankle. Again, just a 2-minute hold. Continuing to breathe all the way through that right side body, noticing if this side's a little bit more open or maybe this side's a bit tighter for you. A few more deep breaths here into your right side body. Guys, stop it. Nice. Let's bring ourselves slowly back to center as I try to break up the cats here. Giving yourself a full body stretch. Inhale. Big release. Exhale. With that, what we're going to do is slowly walk our feet to the mat. Bring the hands to the resting beside the hips. And just take a breath or two, either rocking your knees side to side or hugging your knees into the chest. So our next pose does require the bolster or a firm pillow. What I'd like you to do is grab your prop and place it underneath the knees, please. We're going to come into a supported legs up the wall. So what I'd like you to do first is just grab the loop of the bolster or your pillow. We're going to inhale to lift the hips up as we slide the bolster under the bum. Now being really mindful that the bolster sits on the sacrum, that's the bony part in the low back. We're going to feel the connection there. And then one knee at a time float up. This should feel very effortless. And then one leg at a time, straighten the legs up to the sky. Adjusting the bolster as you need to. Hands can rest on the bolster or up overhead. We're just going to roll out the ankles, flex and point the feet. Taking some time to come into our full back body line, so our hamstrings, our calves. And then we're going to rest here for a few moments. Now you may notice your feet fall asleep in our legs up the wall. That's okay if they do. We're just going to invite the knees back into the chest, wiggle out the toes, and then find the legs back up the wall. Now the legs floating here should feel very effortless through the hip flexors. If there is a little bit of strain, you may want to use a thicker pillow or a prop under the bum. Grossy. The cats have been sleeping all day. Literally all day until I come to my mat, then they wake up. Right, buddy? So we're about halfway through, again, making sure that there's still energy in the feet. If you need to bend the knees, wiggle out the toes, it's a nice opportunity. And then finding the legs back up towards the sky. Last few breaths here, and our legs up the wall. Beautiful. So to release this pose, what I'd like you to do is bend at the knees and drop the knees into the chest. Be really mindful that the bolster stays securely under the bum. And then again with some movement and release through the feet, flexing and pointing. From here, we're going to lower our feet to the earth. Very slowly, be mindful of the low back. Use your core. And then just taking a moment with the bolster or pillow under the bum in a supported bridge pose. Walking the feet out for a bit more expansion through the front body if you'd like. Arms can then reach up overhead. We're just going to spend about a minute in this one. So your option is to be fully extended through the body or just plant the feet, bend the knees to be a bit more supported. Hey. As you're ready, let's slowly bring the feet back to the mat, hands towards the bolster. What we're going to do to release our supported bridge is inhale, just lift the hips up. Slide the bolster or blanket under the knees now, or bolster or pillow I should say. And then just allowing the feet to come together, knees to drop apart for a supported butterfly on the back. Again, just about a minute here in this one. Feeling into some external release through the hips. Hands just rest on the thighs and close the eyes. Few more breaths here into your hips. This is a nice passive stretch. And then what we're going to do to fully release is just walk the feet back towards each other, knees are bent. Slide your bolster off to the side, and then give your knees a little hug into the chest here. One last release for the low back. With the knees to the chest, we're going to roll onto one side, making a pillow with the arm, and just rest on our side for a few breaths. Using the opposite hand to press into your mat, we'll find ourselves in a seated position, taking your time to set up here. Making sure your mat is clear, you can have your pillow or bolster at the top of the mat. We're going to cross in our ankles and slowly roll into a tabletop position, so making sure you're moving nice and slow. I always like to bring my blanket under the knees for extra support. Our next pose we're going to move into is for the hips and low back. This is always a nice counter stretch for all of the work we did on our back. So taking your time to bring your knees about as wide as the mat, slide your bolster in between the knees as you sink your hips down onto your heels. From here, we're going to walk our belly, our chest, and just one cheek down to the bolster, finding ourselves resting in a child's pose, hands walk out. This is a nice 3-minute hold, again for our hips, our low back, maybe into your upper back as well, depending on how you're feeling here. I'm going to give you the halfway point, just so we can change whatever cheek is resting. So we're about halfway through the hold. You're welcome to switch to your opposite cheek. I'm going to stay on this side just so you can hear me okay. Few more deep breaths in our child's pose. Then nice and slow, let's grip our hands into the mat as we slowly inhale back up to tabletop. Bring your knees underneath your hips. Release the bolster out in front, please. What I'd like you to do here is just wag your hips side to side. Stretching one leg back at a time. Really nice release for behind the knees. Nice work, everyone. Let's come back to center tabletop. Any sort of release that you need, so a little bit of cat-cow might feel nice. We're moving on to our belly for the remainder of our practice. So what I'd like you to do is make sure that your mat is clear. We want the bolster up towards the top of the mat. Maybe if you need it for your pubic bone, the blanket can stay there. We're going to very slowly walk ourselves out and find the full front body resting onto the mat, forehead finding the hands here. What I like to do is tuck my toes under and lengthen the legs out, okay, and then untuck so that the tops of the feet are resting. So just taking your time to settle into the energy of being on the belly. The first pose we're going to move into is a cobra pose. I like to have my bolster for this one. But let's just first find our forearms resting, hands planted, pubic bone nice and heavy here. As we open up through the front body. So this is a very gentle back bend. What you're more than welcome to do is stay here, hands planted, or grab your pillow or bolster and slide it under the chest for some extra support. This doesn't necessarily make it more intense, it just feels a little bit more supportive on the chest. So again, we're going to be here for about 3 moments. I like to just rest my my chin on my hands and soften through the eyes. So with this, you should be feeling expansion through the front body, so the chest and into the belly, but also a little bit of release through the low back. Okay, this is a back bend, like I said. You may feel a bit of sensation there. As long as it's not pinching or painful, we're going to stay here for about another moment and a half. Got a few more breaths here in our cobra pose. And then as you're ready, let's just feel our hands back into the mat. Inhale, lift up the chest and very slowly slide your bolster out in front. We're going to come back down onto our belly, just taking some time to soften out of that. And then from our bellies, I'd like you to very slowly roll onto your back. So just coming onto one side and then rolling all the way onto the back. Hug the knees into the chest. You can bring your blanket back underneath your head if you'd like. With the knees into the chest, it's going to feel like a really nice counter stretch, especially to all the work we did on our belly. Now I'm going to give everyone about 10 deep breaths here to move into any final counter stretches on the back. So my favorite is a happy baby pose if that's safe and comfortable in the body. If that's not comfortable for you, you could do any sort of hip stretch, legs up the wall, full body stretch. We've got about 5 more breaths here. Just staying on your back. I'm going to come up to seated so I can talk you through your rest. And then as you feel ready, we're going to move into a restful position on our backs. If you want your bolster or pillow under the knees, it's a very nice support for the low back. Your blanket can come under the head. And then just allowing any final movements in the body to make sure that you're feeling really grounded and supported in your Shavasana today. As we arrive here, let's take a big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, letting it all go. Nice work, everyone. Just taking some time to move through as many of those deep clearing breaths as you need to before we relax out of the breath. Just feel into the natural inhale and exhale. Today for our rest, I'm going to read you a beautiful passage from the book called Prayers of Honoring by Pixie Lighthorse. And the prayer today is called Honoring Surrender, which was our intention for our practice today. Thank you for this reflective and contemplative day. Thank you for the contrast so that we can be clear of where we are. Help us to surrender. Send the flood of salty tears when it is time to acknowledge and release. Let the rivers flow from us, creating movement and health in our watery bodies. Conspire to also deliver friends, visions, dreams, music, and healing food. Help us to surrender. Show us how to give in and not give up. Remember that there is a time to make decisions and a much needed time to sit with strong feelings and patiently await the decision-making time. Witness us leaning our swords and spears in the corner to rest for a while. Teach us to cleanse out old ideas, old expectations, old patterns and triggers, and old bad habits which harm us and linger in our bodies with symptoms indicating spiritual illness. Guide us to heal utilizing the old ways, which do work and have been forgotten. Send us the spirits of our grandmothers and grandfathers with wisdom from the other side of the mountain. Help us welcome them and all of their helper spirits into our sacred spaces. Help us to surrender. Empty us out and fill us back up with what has always been ours, and decidedly of you. Allow us to reveal all of our beauty. Help us to surrender. As you feel ready, I'd like you to deepen your breath. Just taking your time to notice the breath moving deeper into the body. With the breath moving deeper, we feel our body returning back to the space, wiggling our fingers and our toes. Awakening the body with patience and ease. When you're ready, you can gently hug the knees to the chest, giving yourself a big squeeze here. With the knees to the chest, inviting some rocking from side to side until we roll onto our left side, spending a few deep breaths here. This is our yin side, the side of nurture. When you're ready, you can press into your hands. We're going to return back to our seated position to close our practice today. Once you arrive in seated, hands just rest onto the knees, shoulders are rolling down the back, we're sitting up nice and tall, eyes are closed. From this position, let's take a big breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Bring the hands to prayer for our closing mantra. May we express the wisdom of our true selves. May we be reborn with every season. May we listen to the whisper of our hearts, and may we be blessed by inner illumination. May we be guided by the universe, and may we find our way home together. Last big breath in and out. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Thank you for a beautiful yin yoga practice. Namaste. Thank you again, everyone, for a beautiful yin yoga practice, working through honoring surrender.